Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm Kristen Kurtz, your host. I pray this episode is like a holy IV of hope for your soul. Please help me welcome Francine Ivey to the show today. I'm so excited to have her here. We had a chance to connect, I think, just a couple times, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just love you. And would you be willing to share your story? Because I do believe that you're going to just share so much hope with our audience, and you've been through so much, and yet you're here, you're standing, and I know that you have a story to tell. So before we get into that, would you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Um, I am I'm a coach, a follower of Christ. My husband used to say, we wear many labels, but the most important thing that he had four doctorates and all that, but never let anybody call him a doctor. He said, but I'm a blood-bought, born again, spirit-led, spirit-filled child of the Most High God. And I guess if I was to describe myself, I have many titles, many things I've done, but that's the most important title of them all. So I'm a mom of four, three, not four, three. I claim a lot more, but I'm a mom of three, and we live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And um, yeah, we live calling over comfort is
Mm,
where we try to stay. So.
that's a good word. So tell the audience maybe a little bit about what that means for you.
Yeah. So I was married for 27 years, and to the love of my life,
Mm.
still get butterflies in my tummy when I think about his blue eyes and him holding my hand. Uh,
Aw.
and married him at 21, and we jumped right into ministry, and everything from youth pastor to senior pastor to evangelism for a while as we traveled with young children. And um, I told him I'd live in a ditch to do ministry with you.
Oh
And
my gosh.
so I really lived a life with my best friend, woke up with my best friend every morning, and doing some of the most fantastical things with God. Um,
Oh.
and not that there weren't hard things, but for the most part, I couldn't believe that, not only would God save me, but he would use me this way and give me such an incredible family. So, and it was like that. On January of 2017, we had a growing church. It was a brand new church start. After we had a growing business at the time. Just everything was going well. The kids were growing up loving the Lord. That Sunday morning, my husband preached this incredible message called Consumed by the Call, and really calling everybody he'd ever laid hands on into ministry, to live consumed by the call, not to be distracted by the things of this world, but to lay down our life. Much like, I mean, he preached on Elizabeth Elliot, Jim Elliot. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
with that statement, that he is no fool if he would choose to give the thing he cannot keep to gain the thing he can never lose.
Mm.
And we even sang that song that morning. Well, that afternoon we had chicken. My husband looked across the table from me and said, I couldn't. He said, "This is the day of the Ivies," and I was like, "The day of the Ivies?" I said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "I couldn't be happier with where our family is right now."
Mm.
Little would I know I would need those words extremely,
Mm.
in just a few hours. He ran to the store, and because of a truck driver running too fast through a lighted intersection, he took he went home to be with the Lord that night.
Mm.
Um, I pulled up to the accident, and when the police told me, my friends literally had to grab me. My whole life just changed in a matter of an instant. And honestly, my 16-year-old daughter probably said it best. She said, "Mom, my whole life," she was 16 at the time. She
Mm.
said, "My whole life, every statement that I believed about God had exclamation points in front of it. I mean, at the
Mm.
end of it." And she
Mm.
said, "But right now, Mom, they all have question marks, and I'm trying my hardest to pull them back into exclamation points." And
Mm.
so, I mean, that's where we were. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's the same question most people do when tragedy hits. Why do
Mhm.
bad things happen to good people?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think of I'm actually reading through Job again right now, and all the questions when we go through just really challenging things, the trials, the tribulations. I imagine that was probably one of the most I don't even, I've not walked through it before, so I don't know, but just insurmountable grief.
Yeah.
Like,
You,
how do you even get through that first
yeah.
day?
You don't you don't even really get through it. You walk through it. I mean, it's just like it happens to you that first day instead of you doing your day, right?
Mhm.
So, for years, I'd sat with other people who had lost loved ones. I was a pastor's wife.
Right, right.
I'd been on the other side of the table so many times. And so I assumed that all of my faith and all of my knowledge and everything that I'd experienced up until that moment would sustain me. And it did. But at the same time, I felt everything, right?
Yeah.
There was that one doesn't negate the other. They just live in this very holy tension, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
True pain with comfort, true anxiousness for the future with, doubt with faith, right? It's all held in tension in that moment.
That's really good. I've not like thought about that before. Like just even kind of the, the fear and the peace kind
Yes.
of intermelding in those moments where, because he is our peace, but yet we're in this human body with emotions. And I mean, I'm feeling right now, like
Yes.
I'm imagining like that day for you. And as a mama, at that time you had three children.
Yes.
How old were all of the children?
21, 16, and an 11-year-old boy. So,
Okay. So you have an 11-year-old that, still not even puberty time. Like
yes.
how did you talk to him about everything?
It was interesting. I think this was some of the lessons that I learned. All of us were grieving differently. My
Mhm.
11-year-old son, being also the only boy in the household at that time, was grieving one
Yeah.
way. My middle daughter being 16, daddies are so important to that 16-year-old little girl. And, she rode with him everywhere, did ministry with him and everything. So she was unpacking differently. And my oldest, who was 21, also being firstborn, dealing with her grief by taking on everything, right? And um, I think a lot of people ask me, what do I do if a friend is in that spot?
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got four people grieving in a house differently,
Yeah.
but all feeling very deeply. And a mom who, although wants to be the mom to three grieving kids at the same time grieving, deeply as well, just being there, just, letting people talk when they need to talk, because there's times when the family can't talk to each other because one person's grief sets off another person's grief
Yeah.
too. So I tell people, just be, don't feel like you have to say anything. Let them be with you, and you be there to
Okay.
do
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
That's
So
good. I guess, maybe this is kind of where we're going today. Like I feel like there's I think a lot of times we want to try to talk, like Job's friends, it's like how do we help? How do we try to help the knowledge? Like how do we do this thing? Because we do want to be a comfort. Like how would you say tangibly helping somebody? I think I remember having somebody mention to me before, don't say, how can I help you? It's more just offering like meals or maybe taking the kids to go do something. Like, what would you say in your
yeah.
situation looking back now?
As far as meals, don't offer the meals, just bring them.
Okay.
Especially for the widow, she's making a lot of decisions in a very short amount of time. She's in a lot of decision fatigue.
Mhm.
And so, yes, and offering to take the kids somewhere, you know, and don't try to, yeah, don't try to avoid things. Don't be afraid of their grief. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people were afraid of the grief, like, and it comes out in, well, I don't want to make them cry, but crying is a part of their world right then, and it's okay. You don't have to feel guilty if you say something and they cry. They want
Yeah.
to cry, they want to laugh, they want to talk about the loved one, and then they don't want to talk about the loved one. Let's just let them dictate that, and just be in that swirl with them a little bit.
Mm.
It just makes them not feel alone.
Yeah. Be in the swirl. That's something to remember. Yeah. Do you remember having any situations that you look back on, maybe somebody you don't even have to name them if you
Right.
wanted to, you
Right.
could, but just having an example in your life that just really walked through it with you in this world.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I have several. That just I think the people that were in pain with me, they loved him too, but then didn't make it about their pain.
Mm,
That that were there without demanding of time, but actually were there for us.
mm,
I think the most painful thing people can do is try to explain God in that moment, right?
yeah. Yeah.
um, and there's no explanation, and it's okay. It's okay. God doesn't need our PR.
Mm-hmm.
He's good no matter what's going on, and I learned that.
Hmm.
But we would have people that would say things like, why did he go to that store? And I'm like, oh, I don't need to hear that right now, right? That
Yeah.
the whys and the what ifs.
Yeah.
In the middle of that, you don't need to hear any of those kind of questions. It's okay for them to question them, but not
Yeah.
with the family, right? Don't. And it was hard. Of course, they would want to come to me. I'm their
Mhm.
pastor's wife, right? They were looking for answers. I just wasn't in a place that I could give answers at that time. So,
Yeah. Now, at that time, like, did you have a pretty tight support network even prior to that? Because I've heard, I don't know, I've talked to pastors' wives before that really have a hard time like connecting with people like in the congregation. So how was that for you, like in your
yeah.
church?
I was very blessed
Yeah.
at an incredible church, and my business was one that had a lot of team members in it. So even them, they were so gracious. It's one of the things I say is we, even as Christians, even as strong as we think we are, life was not made to be done alone.
Yeah.
I just encourage people make efforts to have friends. I'm so thankful for the community that I had during that time. Yeah.
That's amazing. And consumed by the call
Mhm.
was the word. Now,
Yes.
this is something that was spoken previous to that sermon that day?
Yes. Interesting enough, he had actually started a Facebook Live event every morning, Monday through Friday at 7:30 a.m. And
Mhm.
he was bringing series messages, like little devos for people when they were going to work. Periscope was dying out, and Facebook Live was coming in 2017. And so he thought, what a great way for me to minister to the community that follows us on socials. And I'll just do a Devo every morning. So that Devo that week was consumed by the call. So it was like part one, part two, all the way Monday through Friday. And then he finished it up with, rounding it out on Sunday morning. So we had actually heard consumed by the call of God all week. It was, and which of course is where our business comes from, which is Consumed Coaching, and our family ministry that launched after that called Consumed by the Call Ministries, which me and the kids travel and speak and really speak on it, came all out of that, all out of that series and that message Sunday morning. So
Okay, so tell us like a little bit about that, launching Consumed by the Call as a family. Like I would love to hear about that.
yeah. So didn't start off as the family. It started off 4 days after the funeral. Great. God woke me up, and it was about 5:30 a.m. And he said, I need you to get on your husband's Devo. I need you to go in the studio. And I was like, I don't do that. Like, sat on the front pew. He had the doctorates. I don't have the theology degree. I'm arguing with him, and he's like, I need you to get on. I need you to get on. And so I argued with him for a while, but eventually went into the studio, raw and real,
Yeah.
ugly tears and all, just turned the mic on, turned the camera on, and went live. I didn't tell anybody I was even going live, so I figured maybe 50 of my friends would watch. But it was raw. It was just,
Yeah.
here's where we are, here's what's happened. I know you heard.
Mm.
And here's how God's meeting our family here. And it just really was that. And how God really called me to uh, the thy will be done moment. And
Mm.
which, I told him, the the night of the accident, I told God, I said, I could get up in that bed and cover my head and be done with this right now, God. You know, I could do that and no one would blame me. And he said, yeah, I know you could. And he
Mhm.
said, but what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to cling to you because I
Mhm.
don't know how I'm going to get through this without you. And I said, so, and tears were just falling into the carpet because I just hit the carpet. And I said, God, if you can take this pain that I didn't even know could feel this deeply painful. If you can
Yeah.
take this pain and turn it for your glory, then I'm going to give it to you. And so now fast forward, I'm on this live and I'm sharing that thy will be done moment. And I don't even know what that's going to look like, but I'm giving God my yes, messy
Yeah.
and all, because I have no idea what's going on. Before midnight that night, 34,000 people saw the video and they were messaging me from behind because what am I hitting? Why do bad things happen to good people? What does it look like? Where's God when the pain's so real that it feels physical, not just emotional? And I'm when you're grieving and life and death have just slammed together, um,
Mhm.
that kind of realness really speaks to the world. And
Mhm.
so I was, and I was loving on people, leading people to Christ, and then God said, "I need you to go live every day." And so,
Right after you were done.
yes, the
Like you
next,
you hit stop and then
yeah. And so for 3.5 years, I went live Monday through Friday.
did you really?
I did. Raw, I mean, with no training, with no schooling, just here's where I'm at.
Yeah.
We talked about what it was like to write the first tags on Christmas where I didn't write mom and dad. I had to write love mom. The first time my little boy said dad will never throw a ball with me. Uh,
Mhm.
where, one of the messages early on is where do I put all these tears? Right.
Mhm.
Um, and so it was real messages in the midst of what was going on. And people were following that because they needed answers too, whether they weren't all necessarily grieving a loved one, but grief
Right.
comes in many forms, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and sometimes honesty is exactly what everybody needs. That's why I love your podcast.
Oh my gosh. So I'm just imagining like 34,000 people for the first live you did. And you could see that many people watching while you were doing
Yeah.
it?
While I was doing it, it was probably 1 to 2,000 were watching. But it was afterward the replays, and there for the longest time it was running into the tens of thousands when during the replay people were tuning in. Um, yeah, and
Like a stadium.
yes, right. And then that's what I used to tell people when I would ask them to interview with me, as I said, and I still, I talk to clients all the time and they're like, only 200 people watch that. It's only 200 views. I'm like, if you were standing in front of 200 people, that's
Right.
an audience.
Right.
And
Right.
so, and of course, I always think about what the Bible says, the blood of the lamb and the word of your testimony are powerful. It changes and transforms lives. And I saw it in real time. Like, this is what this looks like. And it was messy. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
know what I was doing, but I was just,
That part again. It's
yeah,
messy and you didn't know what you were doing.
yes, yes,
Like
yes,
somebody needs to hear that today.
yes,
Let's
yes.
pause for a moment. Just
Yes,
take it
please,
in.
Chris. Yes, yes. Because I think everybody thinks, well, I'll just let someone else do it. But no one can tell your story. No
Mm.
one can tell your experience. And it needs to be told the
Mhm.
way you would tell it, not the way someone else would tell it. And
Mm.
there's a battle going on in this world. There is a battle going on, whether we keep trying to look away from it or not. There's a battle in this world. And
Mhm.
and everybody is vital,
Yeah,
everybody. The
absolutely.
people I cannot reach, someone on this podcast that's listening right now is supposed to.
Exactly. Because, just think of, I don't know, I just think of when I talk about the one, I may not know that one. So let's say that one listened to that one first live you did
Yes.
and went and told, whatever gold keys and, nuggets that this person took away, they told one more person
Yes.
about whatever you shared, and then that person shares. Like it's that exponential factor
Yeah.
of sharing. when we're
Yes.
called to do something. Like we
Yeah.
just don't know
We have
right
no
now.
idea.
We don't know.
The ripple effect, that happens you throw a rock and we have no idea the effect and that ripple effect. And yeah, and what I pray that I find out one day, because I'll not know here in full
Yeah.
effect, but
Yeah.
I pray one day when I hit heaven that I hear, that so many people not only gained hope but gained courage to
Yes.
share their
Yeah.
story, right? So
Yes. Did you, I mean, have you heard of anybody who did hear your, 3.5 years?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Tell us maybe a few testimonies or one testimony that was just such a confirmation to you to keep going. Because I think, one of my favorite phrases is keep going. I think a lot of times, like person that you're talking about is like, oh, there's only 200, but what helped you keep going? And maybe what was a testimonial that you received along the way to help you keep going?
I think it's amazing. There are many people who've now written their testimony into books. They've started podcasts. Many of them have started coaching businesses, mentoring businesses, stepped into ministry, done brave things. And now I see a lot of well, let me tell you this one thing that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Much of that community, because it being Facebook Live, they got to know each other. So I would always start off with good morning, good morning, good morning, because it was early in the morning. And I go, where's all my pajama girls? Some of you are still in your pajamas. You go
Yeah.
on, fess it up, right? So those pajama girls are still connected on Facebook. And I
The
see
pajama
them talk,
girls?
and they've never met each other in person.
Oh my
They
gosh.
met on my live and I still see it. I've seen them pray for each other. I've seen, so you see this interaction, they met in the
Mhm.
chat of
Mhm.
that live.
Yeah.
And then the girls that were going to work, like I'm getting ready, jumping in the car, all of that stuff. We learned, we lived early morning life with each other and struggled together. Now,
Yeah.
many of them now, because it's been 9 years now, some of them are losing spouses
Mm.
and will write me and say, I'm so thankful that I walked through that with you because now I know how to face this. And, I'm able to pray with them and encourage them. So,
Wow. So 3.5 years.
mhm.
What was the moment that called you to just, lay it down?
Yeah, it was the weirdest moment. The Lord began to call me into the corporate realm. And I
Okay.
was like, that's really weird, Lord. Like we're being effective here, and this is very comfortable. And a company out of Nashville reached out because of my sales background and the fact that let me back up a little bit. We were seeing a grief counselor. He told
Mm.
me to become a coach
Yeah.
because he understood the partnership that happens between a counselor and a coach. So a
Mm.
counselor delves into the background, right? Getting someone from a -10 to a 0. A
Mhm.
coach takes them from a 0 to a 10. And he
Yeah.
said, I need someone to pick them up as I finish with them to move them forward. And so it was the first time I had ever heard of life coaching and what coaching was. And so became a life coach and then eventually went into the John Maxwell,
Yeah.
coaching and leadership coaching, and then have since gotten lots of certifications.
Mhm.
But so I was doing that and, letting that funnel into ministry, knowing that it was radically transforming ministry for me, recognizing that having the skill of coaching
Yeah.
creates real transformation, permanent transformation. I can pray for people. I can ask for
Mhm.
miracles. I can tell them scriptures, but there's something in that coaching skill set that helps people. And it's what Jesus did, right? Jesus walked up to people and said, what would you have me to do for you?
Right.
What was he doing? He said, self-assess. Jesus knew what they wanted,
Yeah.
right? He knew all things. So he's
Yeah.
asking a question so someone could self-assess. Adam fails, Adam and Eve fail. God walks up and goes, Adam, where are you? God knew
Right.
where he was,
Right.
self-assess, right?
Mhm.
So God, coaching's no new thing. God and Jesus has been doing that.
Right.
So
Yes.
anyway, so I got introduced to coaching. Then this corporate company knew my sales background. I grew mul- um, a network marketing business,
Yeah.
very large, ended up in the top 1% of my company. So I have this sales background and this coaching background. This company someone told them about me and they ended up headhunting me. And I'm thinking, God, this is not me. Like, I'm not a corporate girly. Like, this is not me. But he
Yeah.
kept opening doors. And I've always learned you don't knock doors down, but if they open, God's doing something, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I go through 5 interviews trying to talk them out of it. Like, I'm ministry background, I'm not corporate background. End up getting hired. And in that process, realizing God's shifting something, didn't know what it was about.
Hmm.
Taught sales team and Fortune 500 leaders.
Yeah.
In the first month, I'm like coaching 13 different industries I've never been in.
Love it.
But coaching isn't about knowledge, coaching is about questions and leading,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So I saw the purity of coaching, like what it could look like, watching their incomes triple and quadruple, watching
Mhm.
families restored, watching salvations even, right? Because I'm very upfront with who I am.
Yeah.
About did that for a few years and then found myself in this place going, God, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't care about growing people's income. It's not my goal in life.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he said, what do you want? And I said, I want to be back doing kingdom impact stuff.
Yeah.
And it's when he called me to start my own company, Consumed Coaching, March of 2021. So,
Assumed coaching.
yeah.
I can imagine where that name came from.
Yeah. Yes. Everything stays right around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that was back in 2021?
2021.
Okay. What did that look like for you to get started? Was there any
Scary.
resistance? Was it, I mean, I feel like when we're called into things, the typical response is, you sure, God?
Right?
Me?
Yeah.
Me? I mean,
Yes. Imposter syndrome like crazy.
yeah,
Even though you accomplish these things, you, right? I know me. I know the self-talk. I know the stuff that's going on inside.
yeah,
And so imposter syndrome, that feeling that, I don't know how to do this. And he said, that's exactly who I call because you stay out of my way so I can build this my way.
okay.
Um,
So that's another thing. Like if we think about it just a little bit ago, you just said, kind of like that same phrase, I don't know what I'm doing, kind of, right?
yeah,
So I
absolutely.
want to highlight that again. We're going to pause again.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we're going to keep this going and be reminded of that in a moment when you hear more about Francine and how she started her business.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's actually the best place to be in when God's calling you. Like when we think we know what we're doing, that's actually when we get in the way. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I,
And wouldn't you say, we'll just stay here for a second. School, you go to school, everything's ducks in a row. Everything's got to be ducks in a row. This is the plan. This is the mathematical equations, the
yeah,
science. Everything's just very formulated.
yes,
That's
yes,
kind of our world. But then
yes,
you've got
formulated,
kingdom,
yeah,
and it's a
formulated and
little
graded.
upside down,
Yes,
right?
formulated and graded. Like people
Yeah,
tell you
like
whether or not you're ready or not ready, right?
right,
Yeah.
right. And you can't really think outside of the box
Mm,
because there's only one answer.
yes, yes,
What do you think
absolutely.
about that?
Yeah. It doesn't work in the kingdom.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
have to kind of unlearn throughout your
I
life at all,
totally,
or more
totally.
so maybe lately since starting this business, or
Yeah,
no?
absolutely. I think I totally had to unlearn it. I had to learn that it's really whether or not God wants to do it. Like I've been in situations, just like I've been in situations where I'm totally unqualified to do something and here God is setting me up and I'm finding success in it. I've also find where I'm totally qualified, should be able to do it and finding no success in it. I mean,
Okay.
when you live a
Yeah.
life consumed by the call, when you live the life saying, I lay down my life daily, Lord,
Mm,
then you will find yourself in those places being directed by
mm,
God, by him showing you you can't do this on your own, what I've called you to do, and we try to keep laying back into our own comfort levels of where I feel qualified, where I feel, and I have a client right now. She was an accountant for 50 years, and God called her to be a writer, podcaster, and coach. And she's like, this has nothing to do with all of my degrees and my experience. Yep, that's God.
100%. Yeah, you guys catch that.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2021 comes around. You're called to start consumed coaching.
Yes.
What did that look like for you to get started?
Messy again,
Yeah.
completely messy.
Yeah.
I don't do anything alone, so I gathered a bunch of people that I thought were just incredible and are.
Yeah.
Many of them were coaches. Some of them were not, but had the qualifications and really had the experience and the deep knowledge. I knew their leadership level, and
Mhm.
so I started looking for certifications that they could do. Um, wasn't feeling good about it and started just training them on our staff call. And so we thought we'll all join together. We all have different niches. That was kind of messy. And we'll just share business, but we'll be one team under consumed coaching.
Okay.
And in that
So it's kind
process,
of like a collective almost
yeah,
where people could kind
yeah,
of choose from maybe,
yep,
Susie who does this, Francine who does this more
yeah,
so. Okay.
male, female, different
Yeah.
experiences, different ages, that kind
Okay.
of. And so during staff meeting every week, I would do a portion of what I knew a coach needed to have because there were several that really needed to be trained. And then
Yeah.
I have these others with high end, very expensive training on the call too. Well, I took them through the training and I kept hearing from these people who had, much higher level even than I had in coaching going, that's never been explained to me that way.
Mm.
Well, when that starts to happen, you have to take note. That's not me, that's God.
Hmm.
And I started to just kind of take a pause and go, God, what are you doing? And he said, you're going to develop a certification program that's Bible based and kingdom based.
Mm.
And literally within a couple of days, it was in a workbook, like very different than me. Like this is not something I could do. And I was finishing the workbook and a friend who I hadn't heard from in years calls me and said, "Do you certify coaches?" And I'm like,
Like
"Yes, we do."
as of today, I
As
do.
of today, yes, I do. And we took her through the first certification. She's now blowing and going. She helps
Mm.
online boutique owners build to multi-millions and um, through her experience in coaching and I just and we've been doing that for the last 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last 5 years,
Amazing.
certifying coaches. It's all kingdom based, biblically based. We don't use the languages around new age or anything like that. But we are neuro based. We do talk about how God created the brain. We do there's portions of it that, so mental reps, the whole thing, but
Mm.
how God created it. And yeah, it's been incredible to feel like I get to be the match that lights everything.
Yep, the igniter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. So tell us, your first iteration workbook, has that evolved? Or are you
Yes.
still
Absolutely.
using it?
Absolutely. The base of coaching itself. So like the first, probably third of it is the coaching mechanism itself, how it works, how questions, the right question at the right time,
Mhm.
all of that kind of thing, the different types of questions, the transforming
Mhm.
questions, the
Yeah.
implementation questions, the expansion questions, what
Mhm.
coaching is not, how do you know when you need a counselor? That's like the front half. Then you have the second half, which is actually the mechanics, the things that I found myself actually doing every time I was with a client, right? So those mechanics are taught, the freedom ministry and how to break habits, how to
Mhm.
transform all of that,
Mhm.
mental reps, creating habits, getting rid of habits, that kind of thing is in the
Yeah.
center. And then the last part is business, right? Because I have a sales background and marketing background and branding background. So we dabble in that and understanding what a niche is, what a call to action is, what's the difference between traffic leads and conversion, all of that kind of thing, because you can be a really great coach. And if you don't have the business end, you're a coach with no clients and no kingdom impact. So
Mhm.
we hit on that. And so that part has developed as I realize there's more need.
Over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. So is this like an ongoing training process, or do you have like different times of the year that you bring people in to do
Yeah.
coaching
For
training?
the
How does that
for the
look?
Yeah, for the longest time, it was a one-to-one program. We on purpose did that.
Mm.
I think it makes for a very strong program when you do it one-to-one because you really
That's
get
really
it right.
amazing.
Yeah, so well, first 5 years, the majority of it was one-to-one. We went to small group, which was 3-to-1, and we're launching our first class, which will have 10 in it actually this year. I think eventually it will become an actual open semester and closed semester.
Okay.
As because at the same time we're kind of launching back into our ministry as well as a family.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but and that'll be more controlled and easier, but we still feel like the best discipleship is done through coaching. And
Yeah.
yeah, I won't ever stop creating kingdom coaches because I believe that that answers the discipleship problem in the church.
Yeah, it's that ripple effect too
Yes.
in massive ways.
Yeah.
When is your next class going to be then?
July 15th and 16th. There's one in the afternoon and one in the evening. So
Okay. Okay. Um, what was my other question? Oh, I do have a question
yeah,
because we have questions. The Lord
yeah,
calls me a woman of wonder. So
yeah.
as a
Mhm.
coach, and I think if you could even just share like your best encapsulated way to explain to somebody what a coach is. I think sometimes people don't fully understand what a coach is.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of, just even in our world right now, there's a lot of coaches that are more so operating as consultants, would you say?
Yes. Yeah.
So could you kind of take us down that path a little bit to help people maybe understand what we do a little
Yes.
bit?
Yes. So a coach understands that we don't have all the answers, right?
Mhm.
And we're humble enough
We
to
don't
know.
know what we're doing.
Yes, yes. But
Just
uh,
kidding.
but the answers are inside of the
Mhm.
client that we're sitting in front of. They just don't know how to find them. And through understanding what a question actually does,
Yeah.
um, then we're able to help them unpack that, begin to self-assess. We also hold accountability. So when I look at coaching, it is um, it's accountability, it's helping them create new habits,
Mhm.
it's consistency, it's bringing awareness. All of those pieces come into play. And the
Mhm.
fact that you meet with your coach, either asynchronously or synchronously,
Mhm.
there's accountability. That's an automatic accountability. I used to laugh. I used to meet with my clients every 2 weeks in the business realm. And I always said, when did you actually get your to-do list done, your activities done? 2 days ago, yesterday, right?
Yeah.
That's accountability. If
Yeah.
they weren't meeting with me, it never would have gotten done. So yeah.
That's good. Um,
And
yeah, it's a
they're
huge
also the
part, right? The
yeah,
accountability piece I found, I need a coach. I'm a coach. I need a coach. Do you have a coach?
I have a coach.
Or
Yeah,
coaches?
to me, it's the first thing I tell my clients. I said, if you're going to hire a coach, first thing you need to ask them is who's their coach.
Yeah,
Because if they don't have a coach, they don't believe in coaching. They just want to be a coach.
100%,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
So how would you explain to somebody, maybe that difference of a consultant then
Yeah.
with a coach? And even kind of, we did talk a little bit about counselor, kind of that, negative 10 to 0. Kind of even that difference there with the counselor coach as well.
Yeah, good point. So a a mentor, an account, and a consultant come with experience. They,
Mhm.
if I'm looking for a mentor, whether a mentor being more like a mentor mom, I'm
Mhm.
looking for a mom who's done it successfully, right? If I'm looking for a consultant for like my ministry, I need to find someone who knows how. They
Yeah.
have experience and a track record
Mhm.
to bring that into play. Now, I'm a little different than most coaching programs, and I believe that there are spaces. I let my clients know when I'm putting on a new hat. There are
Yeah,
times I'm putting on a consultant hat. There are
100%.
times when I'm putting a mentor hat on because I have the credibility and the experience to be able to put on that. Now, I don't put it on if it's not when I can't say I'm a consultant in something I've never experienced. I can
Right.
coach through that, but I can't. consult that. And it is a much higher pay grade
Mhm.
consult. I mean, it just
Mhm.
is. You're coming with experience and knowledge and probably plans and uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and you're usually on site a lot of times, like what I'm doing with YWAM, and the fact that I'm coming here, meeting with the team, I'm unpacking it all, and I'm creating a plan. And
Yeah.
part of creating that plan is, a master document, and then I meet with the team and I set them out. That's
Mhm.
consulting. That's not
Yeah.
coaching. Yeah.
Yeah. And I imagine you kind of bring some coaching into it too,
Yeah.
because like
Absolutely.
I imagine you're multi-passionate
Yeah.
as well. I
Yeah.
think a lot of coaches are as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's
So,
so
yeah.
fun.
So when I'm unpacking the plan and I'm creating the plan and I'm seeing what's broken and what's not broken and what needs to be more highlighted or what have you, that's the consultant side. But when
Hmm.
I get done with the consultant side, now it's the people. How are
Yeah.
they executing? What are they struggling with? What is the limiting mindset? Where's the scarcity mindset here? Do they have the right habits in place? Are they, all of the things now to execute the plan? That's when
Hmm.
the coach comes in play. So,
It's such a blessing for them,
yeah.
I'm sure, right? It's such
So
like
special.
looking back, so even over these last 5 years, let's go here for a second. Maybe share a testimonial, maybe of one of the students that have come through. Somebody who like you've just seen have just amazing leaps and bounds in who they were here. You talk about 0 to 10. So
Yes.
that coach doing that 0 to 10, would you
Yes.
share, if I know we're very confidential as coaches, so you don't have
Yeah.
to share names if you don't want to, but
Yeah.
would you mind sharing just
Yeah.
something with us?
Yeah. It's really interesting because I don't have uh, a lot of coaching programs out there have a certain niche that they teach, right? Whether it be leadership or a certain family fitness, what have you. A lot of our coaches, when we get near the end, we're seeing a lot of things like personality, spiritual giftings, experience, and all of that. So we have coaches that are in the fitness realm. We have coaches, nutritional realm. We have them that are life coaches, business coaches,
Yeah.
and even some of them that have taken it now into the corporate world where they're coaches in a business, right? And they've been hired into the corporate realm, or someone we have it's I guess this would be one of the stories. I have this beautiful woman of God who ran large teams in mega churches, um,
Mhm.
one of the smartest women that I know. And I was telling her, you really need to be a coach. She was transitioning out of that. And she was like, I don't know anything about that. And just watching her develop into, and then eventually hired by a large counseling company, because having a few coaches on their staff brings a whole different element to it. And on top of that, they're not state bound, right? Counselors are licensed in
Right.
per state, whereas a coach is not. And so
Mhm.
that opened up the ability for, so she's now in that setting. So
Mhm.
our coaches, these coaches can be in all sorts of settings. Like this skill set can be used in ministry, in
Mhm.
business, what have you. So
Yeah, there's so many places we can go. Oh, the
yeah.
places you'll go, like Dr. Seuss.
And it
Right.
brings such life, right?
Yeah,
Um, I tell people you want the best, even more so than having a gym or fitness center in your business, have a life coach in your business. I
yeah.
said that marriage that's falling apart at home is affecting their job.
Hmm.
The fact that their kids are no longer connected to them is affecting their job. And
Absolutely.
I said, I understand that you want to give them vitamins in a fitness center so that they're not sick, but they
Right.
can be sick in so many different areas. And having a couple of life coaches in a large company and
Hmm.
offering that, people will not leave. They will
Yeah,
not leave because they know the
yeah.
power. Yeah.
Have you seen that happening a lot more with companies really kind of taking that on, or is it still kind of a new concept, would you say?
Yeah, not enough. I've seen it a couple of times, and but a lot of times they try to facilitate a compassionate person in their company and use them that way. And I'm like, you need to get them trained. Like they need to know how to do that, because compassion. really can mess you up. Not actually. Coaches say we're compassionate, we're your biggest fan, we partner
Yeah.
with you, we want your goals, but we also tell you hard things, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. I've been called an eagle mama, so
yeah,
I like to kick them out of the nest. And
yes,
because if you
absolutely.
guys know how an eagle works with the little babies, they're very compassionate and everything's comfy and
Yeah,
you get comfortable here, little babies. And then all of a sudden, the parents start putting sticks in there to get them uncomfortable, and then
yeah,
they kick them out. So I feel
yeah.
like there's that, again, compassion and kick you out, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It's
Yes,
the best. I think it's
yes.
amazing. So I have to ask, and I don't think I've asked you this before, but have you written a book
I have.
beyond the workbook?
Yeah, interesting enough, I did over 100 podcasts, and the Lord said, I need you to take all those podcasts
Yeah.
and each of them find the ones that I want and create a book out of each podcast. I mean, a chapter out of each podcast, and it created a book called Calling Over Comfort.
Really?
Mhm.
So, okay, so you had a podcast or and outside of the Facebook Lives that you were doing as well?
Yes,
Okay, and what's the name of the podcast?
Calling Over Comfort.
Calling Over Comfort. Okay, and are you still doing that?
No,
No.
it's still out there, but no.
Oh, so people can still go listen.
I can.
Oh, and when did your book come out?
2 years ago. So no, about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And I just took the podcast and facilitated, and, changed it around where it was more of a chapter, but they're named after each chapter and then broken down into different segments of
Okay.
content. So, but they're all the podcast really.
Amazing. And do you love writing?
I do. I
Do you?
do.
Do you
Um,
have more book babies to come?
I think so. Yeah. I have definitely the main story has not really been put into a book. I've sat down several times, but I think I'm going to need a writer's coach for that one.
That would be amazing, right?
Yeah.
So I think we need to loop back a little bit to ministry with the family.
Yes.
Tell
Yes.
us more about what that's looked like.
So we've picked that back up. The Lord's really been calling us back out. Now my children are 30, 25, and 20.
Mhm.
So, and working alongside me, all love Jesus, and leading worship and teaching next to me, powerhouses. Even the 20-year-old son is just powerhouse, drops nuggets like nobody's business, challenges me.
Yeah.
Um, and we have this conference that begins in October. We've been preparing for it, called Restore the Altar.
Mm.
It's a 2-day conference that we offer to churches, and all four of us speak. And then there's a beautiful Q&A panel that we're going to do on the second day, and then workshops. We're going to break out into different tables and facilitate small group discussions during worship and all of those things. The whole point
Mhm.
of Restore the Altar is we really feel like what's going on in the world isn't really about the world. It's really about the church losing the altar.
Mhm.
And when there's no altar and there's no sacrifice, and
Mhm.
just like Elijah poured water all over it, we see that
Mhm.
as worship. So you rebuild, if you read the scriptures, when Elijah was on Mount Carmel with Baal, um, Baal's altar was there. But then
Mhm.
you notice when Elijah goes, the 12 stones were there too. It meant that God's altar used to be there, but it was no longer tended. So it had broken down.
Mhm.
He rebuilt it with the stones that were there. Of
Mhm.
course, laid a sacrifice on it and then poured water on it.
Mhm.
For us to do that today, one of the things that we want to do is restore our individual altars,
Mhm.
restore the altar of our families, and then restore the altar in the churches.
Wow.
So, how do you do that? We rebuild the altar through repentance and humility and recognizing who God is and who we are and all of those things, recognizing that we're bought and paid with for a price. We're the sacrifice, we're living sacrifices, right?
Mhm.
Um, laid on the altar, and then just covered in worship, the water covered in worship. And when you do that, God brings fire.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I've thought, just light me on fire, God, for you. And that's how he's going to restore it again. And that's what we're bringing to these conferences. Starts in October. We want to
Okay.
take it all over the nation. We're in the
Oh,
process now of booking that. And then God told me this last month, he said, you're going global after that. And my daughter was in Mongolia at the time, and the pastors all said, we want you to come here. And so we already know we're going to Mongolia. We have some connections to the Philippines and a couple of other places. So, and it's interesting. I'm with YWAM right now, which they're global. So interesting. Isn't God interesting?
just have that little revelation.
Yes.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's part of coaching too, is
Mhm.
talking it out, literally verbalizing something, and then you're like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's seriously amazing. So have you had this conference before?
It's first time. It'll
First
be in
time.
October. Mhm.
Okay.
Now
So
I'm
again, you're doing something for the first time.
messy. Yes. Yes. Now, the Lord did give me a workbook,
Mhm.
and I'm in process of teaching a 7-piece Bible study, and I'm teaching it live and recording it with the workbook right now. So the message is being like needed
Yeah.
in like Potter and
And the
Pastor.
message is needed.
Yes, yes, yes. So,
Mm.
and so we're meeting once a week on Thursday nights. So I'm out of town this week, but
Okay.
we've already met 3 weeks. It's been
Oh,
incredible. Like, yeah,
okay.
the Bible study itself, interesting enough, I teach in the front end, but then there's a confrontation question, which
Mm.
God told me, he said confrontation. I was like, I don't like that word. And he was like, no, it's a confrontation question. And the question he gave me is very confronting to us. Like it's a search your heart kind of question. And then there's an activation they actually do before they come back the next day. And
Okay.
like the first one says, kneel and say, and do this. And then
Mhm.
up under it, I wrote, your body tells your spirit, like it speaks to your spirit. And so don't skip the kneeling, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
really powerful. So, and we're already seeing these like transformation that you can't do through just information, right?
There it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So
Mm. So these conferences that you're going to be doing starting in October, will they be live streamed or are they all going to be like
they're
in
going to be live.
person?
No, they'll be live like in churches. Like
Okay.
um, the two that we booked last December, which we thought were just individual. We had no idea at that point that it was actually going to turn into more of a tour, but they're in Alaska. Like God said, it's literally, he said, start in Alaska. And we have two churches, one in Valdez and one in Fairbanks, that have that booked us last December to come and do a conference. So and it's in them asking us to come that I did the research and really spending time with God. And this is how he works. Like I gave a yes to something I didn't even have,
Right.
right? And then, you know, yeah.
Feel like it's have you had these moments where you give your yes and then it's almost like this outpouring overflow and you're like, I can't keep up with all of the ideas.
Yes. Yes.
So
And
how
so
do you organize all of that? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, because I'm like that and I have people I know, clients, like we just get a lot. We get a lot of downloads. We get a lot of, you might have the blueprint. Maybe there's puzzle pieces all over the place.
Yeah.
How do you sort through it and, step into that next thing then?
So like I said, I am a writer. So I do like to handwrite things. I had a counselor, the grief counselor we worked with.
Okay.
He made a statement one time. He said, I have to steward the ideas and thoughts God's given me. And I
Mm,
never thought about that being stewarded. That that
yeah.
no different than my money, no
Yeah.
different than my talents, right?
Yeah.
The thoughts and ideas. And so
Mhm.
this is messy, but I write them all down. I
Okay.
There's a bag on my desk that I keep them in until it's kind of full. And
Okay.
then at some point, I sit and I put them in the right spaces. Like this is branding, this is coaching, this is ministry. I have books that hold these ideas. Some of them won't be used for 3 years down the line. All of a sudden, I'm like, I have a podcast I'm going to do, or I
Yeah.
have a lesson that I'm going to do. So like right now, God released three books, Restore the Altar, Forged. What do you do when the fire comes? And
Mm.
then Out of the Wilderness, there is an exit to every wilderness.
Mm.
So I have no idea what Forged and Out of the Wilderness is, but I have the book cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know when I finish Restore the Altar, God's going to give me Forged, and He's going to give me, and you just trust Him. He's going to be there when it's time.
Yeah. And how do you determine the timing then? Because I feel like a lot of people, and just in our world, everything's so fast paced that I think sometimes, you know, think of pregnancy, right? When you're pregnant, it's like the end of your pregnancy, okay, I'm done. Like there's a point of like we're a little overdue here.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think a lot of times people want to rush that pregnancy. And
Yes.
then, it is messy. Pregnancy, birthing, all of it's messy. It's uncomfortable, it's painful. But
Yes.
how do you determine the timing in this fast-paced world that is trying to tell you that you have to do everything now?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Goodness, I tend to be the one that goes too fast. So, God actually has to slow me down sometimes because I'm wanting to execute and execute now.
Mhm.
But number one, I have to have peace.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it on my own will or my own knowledge. I've done that enough where I've gone and executed something. It wasn't what God wanted. It did not affect the world the way it was supposed to affect the world, and it was a
Mhm.
lot of wasted time. And I think sometimes I have to remind myself,
Mhm.
um, you you don't have time to waste your time, and the people that follow you don't want to waste their time on only what you can bring to them without it being God led. So I
Yeah.
have to keep that in my mind,
Mhm.
because you know I can take God's idea and run with it instead
Yeah.
of you know kneel and ask Him. So what do you want to do with your idea? So
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever just kind of started your day just saying, "Hey, Lord, what are we doing today?" Do you ever do
yes.
that?
Not enough, but
Yeah.
yes, I have experienced that,
Yeah.
and I do that periodically, but not enough. A lot of times we as humans wake up and go, God, this is my calendar, bless it, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, that wasn't any of my idea. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun because there'll be a lot of like detours,
mhm, mhm.
random conversations,
Yeah.
just having that open space to, do whatever it is that he's calling us to
Mhm.
do for the day. So this has been amazing. I was going to ask you like what the Lord's stretching you into, but I think you're kind of in a very stretching season already right now. Like, but is there anything else that you feel um, you're being stretched into? Like, just even if you look over these last, 9 years, who are you now? Who were you then? Like, how have you grown? Maybe.
Yeah. I spent so many years producing a product, learning how to present that product, learning how to market that product, getting paid to deliver that product.
Mhm.
Um, but going back to ministry, that's not the way it works. It is. It is based in giving. It's not based in an invoice.
Mhm.
That's very odd for me, and weirdly as it sounds, difficult when you're a widow and you don't have your husband's income there, and you know and then you don't I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, we're supported by givers. We're supported by churches who believe in what we do. And I'm not used to asking for that. I'm used to asking for, here's what I can deliver, and this is what it cost to
Like a
deliver.
tangible.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Which is weird because I went from ministry into doing that, which at that transition, it was weird. Now
Right.
I'm being pulled back into that transition, and I'm like, oh, this is quite wild, right?
And do you find that it's kind of melded even in
It
some?
is because now we're still doing Kingdom Coach certification. That is
Yeah.
a product and a program, and there's an invoice with it. And
Mhm.
then, but then again, I go to a church. fly to Alaska. We take care of all of our own expenses to take up a love offering and trust God on it. Right?
Right. So good.
Yeah.
You are a gem. I just love you.
Well,
Oh my
thank
gosh.
you. You are too.
Um, so as you know, this is for the one. So if you were just going to imagine that one who's listening in right now, do you have any other words of encouragement or wisdom that you'd want to share over that one today?
Trust him. He's
Mm-hmm.
good. He's already way ahead of you. He's waiting on you. And there are people waiting on your story, and they're waiting on you to give God your messy yes,
Mm-hmm.
because you are the one to reach them. So trust him. He's got you. He's got you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm going to close with Hope Unlocked anchoring verse, which is, May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace and believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. That's Romans 15:13. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yes. Well, if you are feeling called, and you heard something in this coaching thing that you're probably most likely you're sitting there going, "Well, I've been doing that my whole life." Of course you have. Of course you have, because there's a spiritual gifting behind it. So
Mhm.
if you've been doing that your whole life and you want to feel more confident in it and know the pathways in it, we would love to have a conversation with you. If we're a good fit, we would love to help you get certified and walk out that calling. And you can go to www.kingdomcoachcertification.com and schedule a free call.
Amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you. And I'll have that in the show notes too if you didn't catch it. If you're out running or driving, we don't want you riding while you're driving. So head to the show notes, reach out to Francine when you get a chance, and I'll be back with another episode next week. Thank you for being a brave voice who's setting so many free. I'll be back next week. Bye.